The 80s. It seems like the further we get away from them, the more people want to revisit them, and the more apparently cringe they become. It was the time when we really started experimenting with like home computing and shit like that. Everyone either wore a sleeveless leather jacket and was some type of asshole who smoked cigarettes, or all the other nerdy people were some type of home hacker or some dumb shit. But cringy or otherwise, you gotta admit that many of the metal and rock bands of the 80s kind of formed what that sound would be from there on out, laying the groundwork that would bridge us between the hard rock and classic rock of the 70s and take us into this new age of, well, more bullshit in the 2000s. And we're gonna be dropping a bunch of these assholes into a bunch of different tiers. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Night School. Night School is my membership service where you can take your music making skills to the next level and support the content that gets made on this and soon to be other channels. A lot of people in this generation seem to hyper focus on being the fastest guitar player of all time or having the dankest riffs. Lord help us. And they seem to lose sight of the actual important aspects of being a great musician or a great artist. For instance, most of your guitar tones are garbage. This is not an exaggeration. I have a video that can help fix that. If you're using Focusrite products, I'm assuming many of you will be using the Scarlett 2i2. Check if your preamp has the air switch and make sure that is activated. Focusrite preamps naturally color the signal being recorded. I'm also in the midst of editing a video where I teamed up with my friend and mutual guitar obsessor, Eric Hill, where we teach you how to track a great guitar tone with only a real amp. No pedals, no magic, just a real amp and a guitar. And a huge part of being able to write amazing and musical parts is being in touch with your voice. My friend and vocalist Brian Seagraves gives you 7 tips to instantly improve your singing. Literally, start doing these 7 things today and you will be a better singer instantly.
Instead of starting and thinking my first note is, oh, say can you? Instead of oh being the first note, my first note is the breath that I take in before O, and then trust that the phrase will naturally sing itself.
And do not get me started on how some of you manage your stereo space. It's embarrassing. The number of songs I received from people where the guitars were panned dead in the center with everything else. You should not show this to anyone. My video on panning and managing your stereo space will make you not sound embarrassing to music professionals that you want to impress with your work. But Mike, why couldn't you just duplicate the exact same track and then pan one far left and one far right? Let me show you. I did just that right here, and this is what happens. Now it sounds like it's in the center. If we compare the two, that sounds wider. That collapses down to the center. How does that happen? You can get access to these videos and new videos every 2 weeks for as little as $5 a month. And on top of that, you get the added value of getting discounts on gear and software that you're gonna be using anyway. You can get 10% off of York Audio IRs, which are rated #1 by Guitar World. You can get 20% off of the Happy Cable Company, the best cables out there, period. And you can get 15% off of my buds at String Source, who also make the best damn strings I've ever played. Their strings are focused around having optimized tension between every single string so they all feel the same while you're playing it, and making sure the tone comes through beautifully crystal clear. For $10 a month, you have access to the Discord, where we have a bi-weekly hang, and you can get direct feedback from me on what you're working on. As if that wasn't already enough value, you can save 15% by subscribing annually. That's basically 2 months for free. Come and join us at Night School. It's www.becomethenight.com. Click the link in the description, level up your game, and support the content that you love watching, and help me make a lot more of it. All the money from Night School goes directly back into me making more free content for you. Again, go to www.becomethenight.com by clicking the link in the description, and let's start learning together. All right, let's do this damn tier list. First up, we got Anthrax, and Anthrax would be a great name if it was synonymous with ear cancer. Their productions are so bright and so harsh. Their songwriting fucking sucks. There isn't one melody that I remember. I'm not particularly impressed with any of their riffs. Maybe they had great solos. I don't even remember. The PTSD is too strong. Black Sabbath, voted the best band to launch your more successful solo career from. Their entire legacy is very important. I understood they were the first metal band. You fucking jerk me off some more. It's basically dark classic rock. Let's call it what the fuck it is. It's classic rock that's, ooh, spooky boy, Halloween time. And as much as I love Dio's voice, their entire catalog through the 80s was pretty fucking shit. I've listened to a number of those tracks and I can't remember a single fucking thing that was played. They get a C because it's not absolutely unlistenable, although their production style wasn't fabulous on all the albums. The only thing consistently interesting about Black Sabbath is the vocalists. Def Leppard, I'll give them an A. And also, can we finally admit that Def Leppard is a cringe fucking name? What the fuck does a leopard have to do with anything? Like, ever. It's the least fierce cat right above the lynx. And being deaf doesn't make it any cooler, it makes it substantially more awkward and dumb. How would a def leopard hunt and therefore be dangerous? It's either their most important or second most important sense that they use to survive. So by calling yourself a def leopard, you are evoking the imagery of this useless, emaciated cat who hasn't fucking eaten in months, will probably get its ass kicked because it won't hear a predator approaching. It's like naming your band Crippled Horse or like Lymphoma Gorilla or Limp Bizkit. Regardless of how fucking stupid that name is, the production was always top notch with Mutt Lange. Holy moly. That man pioneered so many things that are still used to this day. It's absolutely incredible. While I haven't fallen in love with a ton of their songwriting, I have to admit they are very good writers and are interesting writers at very least. They had some awesome riffs and solos, gotta give them that. And the fucking vocalist, I forget the guy's name, son of a bitch. I don't care, he's a fucking great vocalist, he's excellent. As girly as some of the shit is. Dio, he's like your uncle who works at the Ren Fair and is way too into Halloween. I think Dio had like 2 songs that I really enjoyed and the rest of them I really wasn't turned on by. His voice is always a joy to hear because he like pours himself 1000% into it every time. Sometimes it's not always the most appropriate thing that the song is calling for. But in the right context, Dio hits great every fucking time. The only thing good about Dokken was George Lynch. Next. Guns N' Roses definitely could have kicked Motley Crue's ass. Axl Rose has a unique voice, and the older I get, the more I kind of get annoyed by it, to be completely frank. And the deeper you go into their catalog, the more you realize, oh, this dude's just a whiny cunt. Well, I think Slash worship has kind of fallen out of vogue, thankfully. I still think Slash is an absolutely outstanding guitarist. He's a very beautifully musical player, and he wrote some freaking great riffs. He's a really interesting riff writer. I would bump them from B to A if I didn't cringe the deeper I go into their catalog. It's fucking painful. All right, Bon Jovi also could have kicked Motley Crue's ass. I was actually tempted to put Bon Jovi in A tier, and I don't fucking care how you feel about that. His lyrics can get so obnoxiously fucking cringe that it needs to be downgraded to B tier. As a melody guy, as a dude who has a vision and wants to bring a production to life through song, I think he is very excellent. He has an interesting, identifiable voice, even though a lot of people find him annoying. One of the reasons why they find him annoying is because the melodies he writes get stuck in your fucking head. And I don't know that Richie Sambora gets enough love. Next up, Iron Maiden. It's S tier. It's not even a fucking question. The same dudes who give pop music shit for only using 4 chords give these guys a pass for only using 3. Just saying. Does Iron Maiden have cringe? Yeah. A substantial amount of it, I would say. Like if I had to compare Iron Maiden's actually excellent songs as a ratio against the number of crap songs that they have, they would definitely go down to an A tier. If we're just talking about the raw number of awesome songs that they have, it's gotta be S tier, and that happened mostly through the 80s. I've been saying for years that I think Iron Maiden is the world's biggest underground band, and a lot of people don't get what I'm saying when I say that. It's like, yes, they do sell out stadiums, and it's nuts, but it's also the fact that there's so many normies out there in the music world who have no idea who Iron Maiden is. It is pretty wild the level of success they've been able to achieve without ever being a household name. I'm actually very admirable of that. Judas Priest, the only band gayer than Bon Jovi. I have zero hate for Judas Priest, but I really don't love Judas Priest. There's like one song I really like, and it's Painkiller, and that wasn't the 80s. I know they're extremely important and a formative metal band and like the start started in the 70s, like I get the whole history. And absolute props to Rob Halford, even though his head voice can be a little weird, it's very distinct and it's very powerful. The dude is obviously a super talented vocalist, and Glenn Tipton's just annihilates on the guitar. There's a lot of things to compliment these guys for. They're only going lower on the list because I don't particularly have an understanding of why people love them. I was wrong. There is a gayer band than Judas Priest, and that band is Kiss. I think Kiss are a little overrated as writers, but it's especially cringe when you look at their 80s catalog and they just lean so obnoxiously hard into the sex appeal stuff that it becomes like campy misogyny. And I'm not using that as like, oh, I'm a millennial and I'm trying to be woke bullshit, like actually misogynist. And if we know anything about Gene Simmons, I mean, he is a creepy, terrible piece of shit. I struggle to think of anything redeeming about Kiss in the 80s. All right, next up we got Manowar, obviously in the S tier. What the fuck? More meme than band, let's be honest. Megadeth. When can we admit they aren't good at writing songs? Took them like 2 or 3 decades to get a decent mix. A riff is only as good as the song it complements. Just saying. Merciful Fate. They have creative riffs, unique solos, and King Diamond. When I heard Metallica's Merciful Fate medley and then I got a copy of Merciful Fate for myself, I did instantly cringe when his vocals came in. No one is intimidated by this. No one is scared. It's just fucking goofy. And to any normal, well-adjusted person, that should be the appropriate response. Like, I can listen to King Diamond now and not have an issue. I get it enough. But man, for how creative some of the writing was, and in some regards progressive, honestly, holy fuck, those vocals. Metallica going in S tier. If James Hetfield is the table, then Metal YouTube is the floor because they desperately want Pop Ahead on top of them. Motley Crue, the only band brave enough to say that they would indeed chub a bee. Keemstar My Heart is a pretty fabulous song, not gonna lie. Going back and listening to more Motley Crue, I start to realize, no, Vince Neil has always kind of been cringe. But some of the riff writing, and especially some of the solos, pretty frickin' tasty. And they were really good hook writers. Motorhead, just why? Why Motorhead? There's something I will never understand, like there's a whole cultural touchstone that this band revolves around that I just will never get. I don't fucking get it. Lemmy is God. Why? Why the fuck even say that? Like, what has he done that's so interesting? He was blatantly honest and crude and flicked people off publicly. I do that. I'm not God. What the fuck makes Lemmy so special? His voice is like running a frog through a meat grinder, which to some is a compliment. If you listen to one Motorhead song, you've listened to the entire catalog. Worse offender than AC/DC. I don't fucking get it. I have no hate for it. I just don't fucking understand. Ozzy Osbourne, he's like your aunt who works the Ren Fair and is way too into Halloween. Ozzy Osbourne's voice is very unique and instantly recognizable, though I would not call him a great singer. He has some friggin' outstanding writing chops, and he knows how to hire the best, he finds the best guitarists, man. He knows how to hire a great freaking metal band who can work really well together. I'm like really shocked because he's the only solo metal artist that I can think of who has done that so well. If I'm forgetting anyone, please let me know. He has an outstanding catalog the whole way through, but really put a strong mark in the 80s for sure. Frickin' Rat. Look, they got Round and Round. They got the riff from Lay It Down. The rest of it is trash. The mixes are way too bright. Goodbye. Slayer. Basically, death before death existed. I've gone on and on about Slayer. I don't think they're good writers. They have some interesting riff ideas every so often. With the exception of Raining Blood, I have yet to be impressed by Slayer. Testament didn't really get good until the 90s or the 2000s, in my opinion. A lot of their earlier stuff, especially through the 80s, was very rough sounding and not amazing writing, to be frank. They really got their game leveled up big time in the 90s and 2000s. Their production sounded great. They had some really cool writing. They had great riffs. Alex Skolnick is a monster. I would say their vocalist is even kind of a meme himself in a way. It's just very unique, weird, dark, deep voice that's also gravelly. I have not quite heard a thrash vocalist like him. He friggin' kills, honestly. When Testament is on, it's so freaking good, and when it's off, it's so not good. Twisted Sister, you have 2 songs that are hits and the rest is pretty lame. And Whitesnake. You know, there is actually something interesting about me looking a little further into Whitesnake's catalog. They actually started out in the late 70s, and that sound of like trying to be basically a hard rock, classic rock style band carried over for a hot while, and you can see a clear evolution into what would become their 1987 album, Whitesnake, self-titled, I believe. Which, like, hands down, that was their peak. Like, their biggest song being Here I Go Again, which is really weird, because I didn't realize that song came out in 1982, and that version of the song is not nearly as good. They, like, rearranged and re-recorded the song for that 1987 release, and that's the one that you know, the classic mega hit song. The original version of that from 1982, it's a little lame. Like, the composition's there, but the execution on the arrangement and performance front is like, it's like so deflating by comparison. Forget the guy's name, but Whitesnake's vocalist is very good. I'll definitely give him that. And they do have some great riffs and some decent writing throughout. I mean, some of it was great, but most of it's decent. The deeper I dive into Whitesnake's catalog, the more I realized I'm not missing a whole lot, but there's very little in there that I would actually call cringe. All right, there's my 80s metal rock band tier list right here. Read it and weep. Come over here to see another tier list. I don't know which one it is yet. I haven't done this until after editing, but see this tier list or die.